All right. So today's deep dive, well, it's a tough one. It's about that moment when your passion for your business and your personal life, well, they kind of clash
Yeah, it's a tricky balance for sure.
for sure. And we've got a lot of source material here, like business plans and personal notes, and a lot to unpack.
Yeah, a lot of raw emotion in these notes, a lot of like, I feel like they don't understand.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And it seems like our listeners at this point where they're wondering, is it even possible to keep pursuing this dream without, causing irreparable damage to their relationship?
right. And it's a question I hear a lot because building a business, it takes so much. It takes your time, your energy, your emotional
It's
resources.
everything.
Yeah, everything. And if you don't have that support system at home, if you feel like you're fighting an uphill battle alone, well, it can be incredibly draining.
Absolutely. And I'm seeing that reflected in the notes here too. The listener mentions feeling like their spouse isn't backing them, which,
Yeah.
that's got to be tough.
Oh, for sure. And that lack of support, it can show up in so many ways. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it's direct, like active opposition to the business idea. Maybe they're constantly criticizing the plan or refusing to make any kind of sacrifices to help you get it off the ground.
Right. Or maybe they're just not pulling their weight financially.
Yeah.
I mean, starting a business, it's a financial risk. There's no getting around that. And if your partner's not willing to share that burden, it can feel like, well,
Like you're going it alone.
exactly.
And sometimes the lack of support is more subtle, like maybe it's not outright negativity, but it's more like indifference, like they're just not engaged, they don't ask about your progress, they don't seem to care as much as you do.
Oh yeah, that silent disapproval can be so much worse, I think.
Oh, absolutely. It can make you feel like you're not being seen, you're not being heard, and that can be really demoralizing, especially when you're already pouring so much of yourself into this business.
Totally. And I'm looking at this business plan here and it's ambitious. It's clear the listeners got big goals, shooting for a pretty significant revenue target in year 1, and well, that could be intimidating for some spouses.
Oh, yeah, I can see that. I mean, change is scary, right? And when you throw finances into the mix, well, it can amplify those fears big time.
Exactly. And it seems like from these notes that there's definitely some fear on the spouse's side, a lot of worries about financial instability, what happens if the business fails, that kind of thing.
Right, right. And it's natural to worry about those things. I mean, no one wants to put their family's financial security at risk. But sometimes those fears can hold us back from taking chances, from pursuing opportunities that could actually lead to, greater financial freedom in the long run.
Totally. And that's where communication comes in, right? I mean, have you talked about these fears, these concerns with your spouse, like really sat down and tried to understand where they're coming from?
That's so important. Yeah.
Mm.
And it's not just about, explaining your business plan or trying to convince them that it's a good idea. It's about empathy. It's about listening to their fears and acknowledging them, validating them, even if you don't necessarily agree with them.
Right. Because it's not about who's right or wrong. It's about,
It's about finding a way to move forward together.
yeah, exactly. And I'm also seeing in the business plan that you considered a phased approach, kind of easing into things rather than going all in right away. Has that been discussed as an option?
That's a great strategy, and yeah, I think it's really helpful to be able to present different options, different scenarios. Like, okay, here's the ideal scenario: we go all in, we crush it. But here's a more conservative approach: we test the waters, we mitigate the risk, and that can sometimes help to alleviate some of those fears, those concerns.
For sure. And it shows that you know, you're being thoughtful. You're not just blindly chasing a dream. You're considering the impact on your family.
Right. And it's also important to remember that, a business, it's not just about numbers. It's not just about profits and losses. It's about building something you're passionate about. It's about creating something that brings you joy and fulfillment.
Absolutely. And that passion, that energy, it can be contagious.
Hmm.
Maybe if your spouse sees how much this means to you, how much you believe in it, well, maybe that can help them to get on board too.
I've seen that happen, yeah. And sometimes it's just about finding ways to involve them in the process, even if it's just in a small way. Like maybe you ask for their feedback on a marketing campaign, or you bounce ideas off them, just to make them feel like they're a part of it.
I love that. And it doesn't have to be, them quitting their job and becoming your business partner. It's just
Yeah.
about that sense of shared purpose.
Exactly. And it's also about recognizing that, your spouse's dreams and aspirations are just as important as yours. So it's about finding a way to support each other to create a life that works for both of you.
Right. And it sounds like from the notes that there's some feeling of being left out on the spouse's part. Like maybe they feel like the business is taking up all your time and energy and there's nothing left for them.
And that's a valid feeling, right? I mean, when we're passionate about something, it's easy to get tunnel vision
Hmm.
and we forget about the other important things in our lives. So it's about being mindful. It's about making sure that you're still making time for your relationship, that you're still nurturing that connection.
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, a successful business, it's great, but it's not worth sacrificing your relationship for.
No, not at all.
So how do you find that balance? How do you pursue your dreams while still maintaining a healthy, loving relationship?
Well, it's not easy, that's for sure. But I think it starts with honesty, with open communication, and it's about compromise. It's about being willing to make adjustments to find solutions that work for both of you.
And it's about remembering why you're doing this in the first place, right? Like, what is it about this business, about this dream that's so important to you? And how can you share that with your spouse in a way that they can understand and maybe even get excited about?
Exactly. And I always encourage people to think about, what does success look like to you? Is it just about the money, or is it about something more? Is it about freedom, flexibility, the ability to spend more time with your loved ones? Because if that's the goal, then your spouse needs to be a part of that vision.
Totally. So let's imagine for a moment that you could wave a magic wand
Yeah.
and create the perfect scenario. What would that look like? What would need to change both on your end and on your spouse's to make this work?
That's a great question. And it's an important one to ask yourself. Because sometimes just visualizing that ideal outcome can help you to identify the steps you need to take to get there.
Exactly. Because it's not about choosing between your business and your relationship. It's about finding a way to make them both work together.
Yeah, and it's about remembering that relationships, they're dynamic, they're constantly evolving. So what worked in the past, it might not work now, and that's okay. That's normal. It's about being willing to adapt, to communicate, to find new ways to support each other.
Absolutely. And it's okay to ask for help. There are resources out there. There are therapists who specialize in working with couples who are going through these kinds of transitions. So don't be afraid to reach out to get support if you need it.
Great advice. And just remember, you're not alone in this. Lots of couples navigate these challenges and come out stronger on the other side.
Exactly. So to our listener, send you all the best on this journey. It's a tough one, but we're rooting for you. And remember, it's not about choosing one or the other. It's about finding that sweet spot where both your business and your relationship can thrive.
Absolutely. Wishing you all the best.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive for today. We'll catch you next time.
See you then.
Hmm.
Bye.
Bye.